All right. This is going to be a new series we're going to start. Hopefully, it'll be helpful for everybody. We're going to start doing battle reports. I'm going to try to do them a little differently. I know a lot of channels will just play a game and they'll record it, and so you can obviously watch that game. There's some really cool channels like 40K and 40 minutes where they kind of make it more cinematic and they can trim it down. I personally have never been a giant fan unless I'm just truly trying to learn an army, and it's a kind of a tough way to learn it by just watching someone play. But instead, what I actually wanted to do was I'm going to talk about games that we play, and I'm going to try to trim it down to, 10, 15 minutes, giving you guys a recap of what went right and what went wrong. So in this game, we had Sisters of Battle, Champions of Faith versus Orks playing Warhorde. So I do a lot of sisters content. So as we're kind of talking about this, both players were taking tactical secondaries, which means each round you draw secondaries and what have you. And within that, take and hold is maybe like the most simple game mechanic. Every point's worth 5 points. So it's typically a higher scoring mission. So we're going to start with kind of looking at the armies. So my army was called Your Mom Has Weighted Dice. You've probably seen. I've been posting a couple different iterations of this. I'm trying to settle in, but basically I've got 2 Hospitaller and Sacresant bricks. I've got 2 Insidiants, both being led by Priest. I've got 2 Battle Sisters. I'm splitting with the Immolators. I've got a thing of Sanctifiers. I'm putting in a Rhino. And then I've got Morvenn and the War Suits. And then I've got 2 Retributors. A lot of the time I put the Retributors in reserve against Orks when he had no deep strike. He had 1 unit once per game, uppy downy. I put everything on the board. So pretty standard, straightforward kind of list. Now, if we switch here and we look at the your boys got stuck in list, he had Ghaz with a 20-man boy and a mech with an enhancement so that they could move faster. He had a beast boss with his beast snagga boys. He had 2 Warbosses leading some knobs. Then he had a big like a war boss with like the mega armor, I believe is what it's called. And he was running with the mega knobs. Then he had 2 things of flash Gitz. He had a battle wagon and 2 trucks. So just a whole bunch of hate, just kind of like running down them. So before we kind of got started, the sisters game plan is to push the Sacresants out onto the midpoint. If you go first, use OC. We've got a lot of OC2 bodies. We want to keep that pressure up. Use trades with the Insidiants and the Retributors. And then basically we've got to soak that Waaagh turn and then push afterwards. And then Vahl will typically come and clean up after the Waaagh has been in. I don't want her getting charged in the Waaagh. And Orks really going to stage, deliver that Waaagh on like that turn 2 or 3, use flash Gitz to have some range, forcing people to move around. And then you're using your trucks and your battle wagons as bubble wrap to get your units up where you want. Orks are trying to kind of do some area denial and they just want to turn it into a scrappy game. I really want to keep them on the other side of the board. I prefer to not fight in the middle. So it's kind of interesting. In this game, we both actually preferred to go second. I could go either way. If I went first, my job was going to be to screen and push him back and kind of keep him from being able to play the game he wants to play. And then if he went first, he was going to have to get out there. But if he went second, he could stage and then counterattack. So all that being said, turn 1 summary was that he drew recover assets and locus, establish locus. So I think he made a little bit of a blunder here. You can see he drove his blue truck out into the middle. It wouldn't have been what I would have done. So he drove that truck out there to do it. He did a little bit of pot shooting, but nothing crazy. I probably wouldn't have sacrificed that truck and those units for area denial, but just me. So after he did that, that was his turn 1 was pretty uneventful. So my turn 1, what I wanted to do was I drew establish locus and recover assets. So I knew that I needed to get a unit out into the middle. as you can see here, I brought my Battle Sisters out. I went ahead and got my Sanctifiers out of the car. Once that happened, I drove both my Immolators up on the flank there on the north. The goal is getting the top Immolator on that point, trying to bait him to come up top. The thing about Orks is they're a slow army. So if I bait him to come up top to deal with that, those units are kind of stuck there. The other Immolator coming down to basically provide a screen. So this is the part that can be a little bit scary, especially as you're a new sister player. You have to give to get. And what I made a very tactical decision here, and I assumed my 2 Retributors that were right behind the Rhino there. I had no worry between them and the Melta Rifle, the Multi-Melta, and the Twin Multi-Meltas of the Immolator. There was no chance that I was not going to blow up the Rhino. Like it was an automatic. And then I had a feeling that between the leftover shooting, I could actually do some pretty good damage to the flash Gitz inside. So I just made a tactical decision that, between the truck and the flash Gitz, if I could go ahead and kill those, that's a decent amount. So you got to keep in mind, sisters are a trading army. So that truck's 70 points. Each of those flash Gitz are 80 points. So you got 160. You got like 230? The 230 points is what that blue truck is worth. So my Sanctifiers, if I sacrifice a Sanctifier and 2 things of Battle Sisters, I'm sacrificing 200 points. And if I give him the 2 Immolators, which is what I was kind of doing, I don't really need those in this matchup. Multi-Meltas against Orks, they don't really sing. So what I decided to do was my Insidiants, I moved up, put them in the Rhino so that I could slingshot them out, and decided to full send into his blue truck and what was inside of it. And I really wanted to cram up the middle there. So what you'll see is the Retributors blew it up, easy mode. Then the flash Gitz got out. I was able to pick up some additional shooting on said flash Gitz. And then after I was able to pick up some additional shooting, what ended up kind of happening was at the end of that first turn, our score was super close. It was 18-15. So it was a tight game, if you will. But you can kind of see here the end of it. Whereas we started at his turn, there was only 3 flash Gitz left. I only had 3 Sanctifiers left, but the whole goal was I didn't want him to have that easy push into the mid. So he moved his black truck over, and you can see he went ahead and got his Beast Snagga Boys out, which I assumed he would. Then his Beast Snagga Boys and his Mega Knobs and Warboss in Power Armor, or whatever he's called, comes out. Then all of the knobs come out of the battle wagon. He had Wad at the beginning of turn 2, so I knew this was the turn I had to weather, and I was fixing to feed him basically all the stuff that I'd given him in the middle, and he was taking my bait. So what ended up happening was everything got out. He moved up onto that top point, which easily he was able to take. Ghaz moved into a staging position, and the truck, his big old battle wagon, moved down. Then as he began to really move, he brought in his knobs from reserve. So he had kind of this was his full go turn. He was fully sending at me, and in my opinion, he did it a turn too early. Because he couldn't connect with the bulk of my army. You have to understand what your enemy's win condition is. I don't need the Immolators in this matchup. And the Battle Sisters inside are only worth 50 points. So if he kills the Battle Sisters and the Immolators, he's going to kill 300 points of my army. With the Sanctifiers, 400 points. But it's 400 points that aren't really optimal for fighting back into his army. I still have those Sacresant bricks. I've got 2 things of Insidiants, Morgan Vahl coming out. So I have the core things. He did deep strike boss Snickrot in my background, in my backfield. Totally expected it. I pre-measured 9 inches, couldn't get him onto my home point, which is all that really mattered. So here's where things got stuck in, so to speak. As you can see, he has knobs on my Immolator up top. He has Boyz and Ghaz on my Immolator in the middle. Beast Snagga Boys there, Mega Knobs. I mean, there was just units everywhere, right? So with the way everything was, when it was all said and done, here you can see he basically cleared out the entire midboard. 2 lone battle sisters happened to survive, and that was it. So after this, he scored good primary, if I remember correctly. He had scored 4 points of secondary, 6 points of secondary, and 5 points of primary. So, all in all, he had an 11-point turn. So he was up 26-18, and and he was really, really in my face. And this can be the point for a lot of players where it can get very, very scary. And the reason I say that is when you kind of look at this image here, you can see there's just a wall of green, right? And those are toughness 5 bodies a lot of the time with 2 health. I mean, it can be very intimidating. But this is where you have to know they're coming out, and then I'm going to counterpunch, and that's what we're going to do. I always, since he didn't have any Overwatch threat, because sometimes you have to bait out the Overwatch, you always want to move the unit that's most important first that you need to get in position. These Insidiants had made Ghaz their quarry target, so they got out of the car. Once they got out of the car, they moved over so that they could be an inch away basically from Ghaz's unit, so they could charge in, precision into Ghaz, kill Ghaz. Then after that, I moved my Sacresants out, kind of like swarming them, if you will, around his Mega Knobs. I also moved Morvenn up so that the girls could be able to see into the midfield for shooting and charging. The goal being that they would shoot the truck and blow it up and then charge out in. I did have some pretty good miracle dice. And then where things really starts getting spicy is in the shooting phase. Morvenn is able to pick up the truck. We're able to thin out the Beast Snagga boys pretty well, as well as the Mega Knobs. We got the War Boss down to like 3 in Mega Armor. We got him really low. And then I used a miracle dice for Morvenn to make sure she would land her charge. The Insidiants made their charge, and the Sacresants made their charge. So again, it's very similar to the way he went in. I blew multiple miracle dice for multiple units to make sure there was not even, I didn't even want to risk a 5 or a 6-inch charge because I needed to connect, because I knew if Morvenn, and we could pick up all the Mega Knobs in the middle, we could pick up the Beast Snagga boys, pick up the Flash Gitz, and kill Ghaz, we were good. I severely overkilled Ghaz. I put the entire Insidiants unit into Ghaz. He popped his stratagem for fight on death, which was actually a pretty good idea. They completely obliterated Ghazghul, and then Ghazghul killed them in return. But again, when I talk about trading, Insidiants with a priest, we're looking at 170 points. Ghazghul's 235. This is where sisters thrive, trading up. You want to make sure that when you're putting something in, you have adequately done the math to know, can my unit kill up? Because if you keep trading a 170 point unit for a 235 point unit, your enemy's going to run out of units. And that's exactly what happened in this scenario. So Morvenn did what she was supposed to do. Morvenn picked up the Flash Gitz, the Warsuits picked up the truck. They charged in, picked up the War Boss and Mega Armor. The Sacresants charged in. They were able to kill all of the Beast Snagga boys, just like they should, and we picked up Ghaz. The score started to compound and kind of started to really swing, because I had gotten marked for death, my baby marked, I had killed with the Beast Snaggas, I'd gotten secure no man's land. So at this point, the score was starting to swing heavily, and the problem is that realistically after this point, he did not have enough units really left to play the game, if that makes sense. So there will become a point in games when you realize that, yeah, the game is basically over now, and so we can just sim it out from here, which was kind of what happened here. So once all those charges and everything kind of landed, and we were where we needed to be, he didn't have enough units to really still play the game. And so what ended up happening at this point was he just moved around and tried to score to the best of his ability, and I just killed things as it was necessary and just kind of secured my way on to victory. He's a good player, so he knew how to score. To me, the big mistake for him was putting that truck with the Flash Kits out. If he was going to drive it out and shoot, maybe, but he sacrificed too much too early for too little. And then I think he should have waited till turn 3. I think one of my mistakes in this turn in this game was I overcommitted to the bottom, putting Sacresants and a unit of Insidiants down there. They didn't do much the whole game because he committed so hard up top. And what I should have done is I should have just put one unit of Sacresants, knowing how tough they were down bottom, and had that other Insidiants up in the top hand. They could have given a lot more support and a lot more help. But hopefully this is helpful. The final score of the game ended up being 97-67. It was a really fun game. It was a good game. I think we both learned some stuff from this matchup. Closing thoughts, if there was anything that I would say is for sisters, just remember screens equal tempo, which equals the beginning of the trading game, which is what we want. The OC matters. It's very, very good. And don't be scared to bring Vahl out once you know things are going. Orks, I think they just have to play a little bit more defensive on turn 1 and turn 2. But overall, I think it was a really good game, really fun game. Hopefully this helps, giving you guys kind of some live play-by-play. And we'll be doing more of this. So drop a like for the Emperor and subscribe for more 40K content and lore just like this.